I, I don't know whether we're live yet. I'm still working on this bit. So let's go over to and check out what we're doing on the YouTube bit and go to silence it. There we go. Here we go. Nope. Okay. We'll give it a go, see if it works. So back to Zoom. Right. Hey, how you doing? Question. Do you want to play a game? Everyone likes to play a game, don't they? Well, the first thing I'm going to ask you is fast. What does that word mean to you? If I said the word fast, what is the picture, the concept in your mind that you've got? Because without context, it could mean a number of different things. It could mean speedy, as in running. You run fast. You can speak fast. That's a description of speed. And there's also fast as in abstinence, staying away from, restriction. Now, that particular version of it, I've been exploring over the last few weeks. I'm in Malaysia and we've just come out of Ramadan. So all my Muslim friends were fasting. For them, it means no food, no water from dawn till dusk. Yesterday, I was speaking to a lady who's doing a fast ahead of their Serbian Orthodox Easter. For her, fasting is abstaining from meat, animal products generally. She goes vegan. I was speaking with a gentleman who's a Tamil. He has a festival coming up at the moment, and his fasting is digital detox. I intermittently fast, so I don't eat from nighttime round till lunchtime the day after. So we've all got different ideas of the word fast. Whoopie-doo, Wendy, what's this got to do with me? Good question. I think I've given you an illustration. I trust I've given you an illustration of how each of these people has a different concept, a different picture in their head of what they mean by that word. So you as a speaker, you as an author and a speaker, you need to be clear what you're talking about, don't you? You also need to have in mind who your audience is, so that the illustrations that you can give to make sure that my picture is the same as your picture, or as near as you're going to get for clarity. So what are those illustrations that you can use, the ones that are going to make sense to your audience? As I said, I've been speaking about even the concept of abstinence fasting. We had 4 different versions within the space of a month. You see where I'm going with this? So knowing the context, knowing your audience, knowing what's going to make sense to them is going to really help you get your message across. I was interviewing a beautiful lady yesterday for my From Page to Stage podcast, which is also on this channel, so go check it out. Her interview is not up yet. And she was making the point that when you write, you have a particular person in mind. You're writing to that audience, you're writing to that reader. And the same thing goes when you take your written words and take them to a stage. You go from page to stage. You embody your words, you bring them to life with that specific audience in mind. So what is it that's going to make sense to them? Use examples, use story form, because we all know the importance of stories. I've given you an illustration of, I said, 4 different versions of fasting. So if you happen to be talking about a concept that could have multiple layers, be clear, be concise. You don't need to go into all the variations. But even if it's a case of, this is what I mean by this concept. The same lady I was talking to yesterday speaks 5 different languages. And therein we have the richness of a particular word in a particular language can encapsulate a whole concept. Whereas if you are to translate that single word, you've got to do about 10, 12 more words in a different language to explain that one encapsulating concept. So I trust that my fun with language, because you know me, I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to language, is giving you a clue how you can be a better speaker, a better author as well, by considering who is my intended audience. And by audience, your words have power. So whether that's the written word or the spoken word, it's still an audience. Know your audience. Know who you are speaking and writing to. The context is king. You can spend an awful lot of time on content, but if you haven't given the context first, you might as well forget it. To spend that time in setting the scene, not in so much detail that some people are going to get bored and go, oh, for goodness sake, just get on with it. But give enough detail that's going to go, this is why it's important for you to know this, this, and this. Let me give you an example of that. When we were doing the MAD book last year, the Making a Difference, Ways to Magnify Abundance, Vitality, and Freedom, working with the authors to get their story clear. They had 3,000 words. And on the surface, if you've not done any writing before, 3,000 words may seem like an awful lot. It's not when you're sharing your origin story and you want to share that important pivotal moment in your life. Some authors got 5,000 words down and we went, yeah, no, that's too much. Let's go through it again. Remember, what is the end point? What is the goal? What is the takeaway that you want your audience to have as a result of telling your story? That's the first thing. Start with the end in mind. It's a very well-worn phrase and it's there for a reason. So then you think, well, what do they need to know? What of my story? Because there's a lot I could share. What's relevant to them? The example I gave to one lady was, did I really need to know the color of her shoes, of what she was wearing on one particular incident? I mean, if they were red and you were in Kansas and you were going to click your heels together, yes, the red shoes were important because your name's Dorothy and you're going over the rainbow. My point is, unless something is important, leave it out. Somebody once said to me, each word as you're writing has to earn its place. That is real estate and it needs to earn its place. And the same goes for when you're speaking. Context is so important to lay the scene, particularly when you're telling a story that you want your audience to come into. Enough detail, enough context but they're there with you. And at the same time, pushing it forward. The context, the detail is important as long as it's relevant to the point you're going towards. So that was what I wanted to talk to you today about: context. Knowing your audience, giving your context on what you're saying so that it makes sense and the concept in your head is pretty well conveyed to them, to your audience, so that they are on the same page as you. I leave that with you. My challenge for you this week is have a look at your work, have a look at your written work, have a look at your speaking work. Are you speaking, bringing your words to life with a particular audience in mind? Are you on those podcasts that speak to your audience? Because that's another way of refining, homing in on your particular audience, the ones that want to hear your voice. When you know your audience, life is so much clearer for you and them. I leave that with you this week for how to be a better speaker. Hone your speaker skills as you go from page to stage. Message me below if there's any questions that you have around context, or if there's anything, if there are any particular topics you'd like me to cover as we go from page to stage. For now, bye from me.